Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the NYXI Flexi Controller that is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, Windows, macOS, Android and iOS mobile devices, Android TVs, the Steam Deck, the Rogue Ally X, the Legion Go, and even Tesla vehicles. Now unfortunately I do not own all of these devices or a Tesla vehicle, but I will be showcasing this controller being used on my Acer Nitro 5 Windows laptop, my Nintendo Switch OLED, my Samsung X6 Lite tablet, my iPhone 13, and my TCL Android TV. But before I unbox this controller, I just want to thank NYXI for sending me out this controller to review. And even though this was sent out to me, my opinions are going to be 100% unbiased, as I can't stand promoting terrible products. So if I find anything wrong with this controller, trust me, I will let you know. All right, here we go. My favorite part about these videos, unboxing a new product. Before I do, I just want to say the teaser video that they dropped for this controller when it first got announced had me absolutely hyped for it. I mean, it's not the first controller to have a swappable module, as I do own a controller from a different company that had the same mindset. I'm just gonna say it's a great idea, but they had poor execution when it comes to product quality. However, with NYXI, I have yet to experience a product quality issue. But let's get back on topic. Now, when it comes to the packaging, it's a pretty standard packaging job by NYXI. It's a sleeve covering a box, and with the sleeve it has the image of the product, and they only listed a handful of the devices that this controller is compatible with. Then on the back of the sleeve, it's just a basic rundown of the removable faceplate, the replaceable D-pad and joystick module. Ooh, this says mechanical switch while pointing at the buttons. I swear, if the XInput buttons are mechanical, ooh, that's gonna be a game changer. Usually the buttons on NYXI's controllers are standard. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but we all know the mechanical buttons are just so much more satisfying when you hear that click. Then we got this USB stick. Then we got a basic rundown of the product specifications. But that's enough talking. Let's get straight to unboxing the NYXI Flexi. And here we go. We got the controller wrapped in this soft foam padding that I just tore, but that definitely was in there. It was honestly a pretty tight fit. But here's the controller. Let's get it out of this wrapping. I'm loving the feel of this controller already. And yes, the XInput buttons are mechanical. Just listen to it. That is just so satisfying. And the thumbsticks are concave. Then we got a sticker right here. It's just a warning sticker to ensure the module is fully pressed down for proper connection after rotating. And just get the sticker off, push that off to the side. Now, how do we pop this front plate off? I might have to take off the gloves for this. So for the faceplate, it's just magnets. So this thumbstick right here is fully in place, and the buttons, I believe you can remove them if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. Then the module is right here. All right, Future Bullish Cloud 5 here. If you noticed in the video, when I was trying to slide out the module, I was kind of tugging on the joystick. Do not do that. And I'm only saying this because the instruction manual says not to pull on the joystick, and obviously you shouldn't do that. Joysticks aren't meant to get tugged on. They're just meant to move around. So if you tug on it too hard, you're gonna affect the lifespan of the joysticks, and we do not want that. So here's the foolproof method on how to remove the module from this controller. First thing first, do not wear gloves. Then look for these indentions near the module. Then you're just going to use your thumbnail and gently lift up one side of the module, and as you can see, it's lifting. Then you can pull it out. And then when you put it back together, make sure it's firmly pressed down, and you'll know it's connected if you try to remove the module and it doesn't budge. And also for the buttons, I said I was not going to showcase it, mainly because I was afraid of how it works. It's very simple. It's just keycaps. You know, you just pull up on it. As you can see, there's a little square. Hopefully you can see this, but there's a little slot here for that square to slide into. And the only reason why you can pop these off is so you can go back to a switch layout if you truly wanted to. Just make sure to line up the square to the slot and then put this back on, and boom, nothing to worry about. And this module does feature Hall effect joysticks. If you weren't aware, Hall effect joysticks utilize magnets and sensors, so none of the internal parts are rubbing against each other, hence why the thumbsticks on this controller should never develop stick drift. And this applies to both of them, not just the module. Now, the only reason why this is swappable is make sure that's firmly pressed in there. Some people enjoy the PlayStation layout, which is essentially this, with both joysticks next to each other. Something that I don't like. It's a personal preference. So I'm going to be reverting this back to the Xbox layout. Also, one thing I did notice about these joysticks is that they do not have a metal ring around the neck. Now, this isn't going to be a deal breaker for most gamers, but for me personally, I wish it did have a metal ring, because here's the joystick that belongs to my daily Xbox controller. I'm not sure if you can really see that, but there is a true indentation from the joystick ring around this neck. Now, luckily, this ring does have a anti-friction plastic ring around it. As you can clearly see here, there's 2 pieces of plastic here. So it shouldn't really develop that bad of an indentation like this joystick, but it's still something you might want to watch out for in the future. Also, I'm wearing gloves, but I can still feel the texture. The handles are gripped. Then the front of the handles, it's basically textured with this honeycomb design, but this is mainly for your LED lighting. And why is there like speaker holes here? But you do have 4 back buttons, and when you're gripping onto this controller, your middle and ring fingers curl right into the buttons. But if you play claw, this might feel a little tricky, but your ring finger can glide over both buttons quite easily. Then when it comes to the D-pad, I actually like it a lot. It's definitely not a standard D-pad. I actually want to say it's a tactile D-pad, as it does have a clicky feedback. Then the bumpers are sadly standard. I honestly wish this controller kept that same theme of having tactile and mechanical buttons, but it is what it is. The triggers actually feel quite nice. They are Hall effect triggers, by the way, which means none of the internal parts are actually physically touching, just like the Hall effect joysticks. Returning to the back of the controller, there are 2 buttons, which is a reset button and what I am assuming is the LED light control button. Returning to the front of the controller, there is a start button and a back button, and those buttons also function as the plus and minus buttons on the Nintendo Switch. Then there's also a turbo mode button that enables an auto clicker, an M button, which disables the back buttons, and the bottom button that has the NXYI logo is the home and power button. And to turn on the controller, just press and hold down the home button for a few seconds, and there is that LED light I was talking about. And even the center of the controller lights up. Now, I'm honestly quite curious on how this is going to work when it comes to connecting to multiple devices, but let's see what else comes in the box. Well, there we go. It just slid out. But for the pack accessories, it comes with a USB stick, which is the 2.4G receiver, which has its own protective cap, which I really do like. It also comes with an instruction manual and extra keycaps. Aw, no. I'm just saying oh no, because with the Master P1 controller, they provided a braided cable, which was a huge upgrade, but this is just a standard cable, which isn't bad. The length is, it's honestly a small cable to me. I feel like most people will be using this controller wireless. If it's not obvious already, you can use this controller as a wired controller, a Bluetooth controller, or utilize the 2.4G receiver for a wireless connection that basically feels like you're playing with a wired controller. And before you start using this controller, make sure to use the cable provided to charge and activate the controller. So just plug in the Type-C end of the cable into the charging port of the controller, then plug in the USB-A end into a PC, a Nintendo Switch dock, or if needed, plug it into a non-fast charging wall power adapter, or basically a low wattage wall power adapter, to avoid damaging the controller. Now, before I start showcasing this controller being used on my devices, I just want to go over a few important key features. First, the battery life of this controller is honestly impressive, as it can last up to 8 hours and only takes 2.5 hours to fully charge. Then the center LED lights are actually indicators to let you know what connection you are using, and will also let you know when a controller is charging and when it has a low or full battery. On top of that, this controller can be used up to 10 meters or roughly 33 feet if there isn't any interferences, but let's be realistic, no one should be playing that far from their device. Now, I first used this controller on my Windows laptop, and there are 3 ways to connect the controller to a PC, and in order to connect this controller wirelessly to different devices, you have to use a specific button combination, so please pay attention. Option 1, use the cable provided to turn the controller into a wired one for a very simple plug and play. Option 2, utilize the 2.4G receiver for a smooth wireless controller connection, and to do this, you have to press and hold down the home and B buttons at the same time until you see a rapidly flashing LED bar, then plug in the 2.4G receiver into an open USB-A slot on your device, and press and hold down the only button on the receiver until you see a rapidly flashing white light, and as you can see, it doesn't take long to pair. Or option 3, connect the controller via Bluetooth, and to do this, just go into the Bluetooth settings of your device, then select add new Bluetooth device, then press and hold down the home and A buttons at the same time until you see a rapidly flashing LED bar. And I will admit, it did take a little bit for the controller to be discovered, but once you see Xbox wireless controller, select it, and it once again shouldn't take that long to pair. And those 3 options can also be applied to a Tesla vehicle, but when this controller is connected to a PC via cable or the 2.4G wireless connection, you can change the API of this controller from being a default XInput device to a Switch Pro device only if it's connected connected to the 2.4G receiver or even to a DInput device. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, go ahead and fast forward through the video. But in order to change the API, just press and hold down the start and back buttons at the same time until the controller vibrates, and just repeat the steps until you have your desired API. And when the controller is set to D-input, the top two LED bars will be on. Now when it comes to my PC gaming experience with this controller, I honestly love the wired and 2.4G connections, as they felt nearly identical and it literally felt like there was zero input delay. Then for the Bluetooth connection, it was my least favorite, as it didn't feel as smooth as the other two connections for obvious reasons, but there wasn't any noticeable input delay. And funny enough, my best match of Black Ops 6 with this controller was with the Bluetooth connection. Then when it comes to connecting this controller to a Nintendo Switch, if you have a dock, just use the cable provided to turn the controller into a wired one for a simple plug and play, and when you unplug the controller, it will maintain its connection and become a wireless controller. But if you don't have a dock, just go down and select controllers, then select change grip / order, then just press and hold down the home and B buttons at the same time until you see a rapidly flashing LED bar, and as you can see, it doesn't take that long to pair. Then when it comes to my Nintendo Switch gaming experience with this controller, both connections felt nearly identical. There wasn't any noticeable input delay, and overall it was just a lot of fun using this controller while playing Fortnite. And this controller does have a 6-axis gyroscope motion controls, and the controller can wake up the Switch. Also, if the Xbox layout of the controller throws you off, you can either remap the buttons in the Switch settings or swap the keycaps to have a Switch layout. Then when it comes to connecting this controller to an Android mobile device, an iOS mobile device, or an Android TV, just go into the Bluetooth settings of the device, then select the option to add a new Bluetooth device, then press and hold down the home and A buttons at the same time until you see a rapidly flashing LED bar, and once you see Xbox wireless controller, select it, and as you can see, it doesn't take long to pair. And if you own a Windows handheld console, a Steam Deck, or any other type of handheld console that has Bluetooth connection, just repeat those same steps. Then when it comes to my gaming experience, on my tablet, iPhone, and Android TV, there wasn't any noticeable input delay, and I honestly had a lot of fun using this controller while playing Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Warzone Mobile. Then for my Android TV, it took a while to find a decent game to play, but I will admit, it's nice to use the controller as my new TV remote. Overall, no matter what device I'm connecting this controller to, it's super easy to pair, and it's definitely going to be my new daily controller for mobile gaming. And I am a huge fan of the Hall effect triggers. For all of my devices, when I was spamming my trigger finger, I had zero issues, there wasn't any hiccups between the shots, and I'm just gonna say it, this controller is perfect for first-person shooters. Then for the final key features, in order to program the back buttons, just press and hold down the turbo mode button and the back button you want to program at the same time until the controller vibrates, then release both buttons and the LED bars will flash in the process, and press the button you want to assign to said back button. Then press the turbo mode button to end the programming process. Or if you want to take it a step further, you can enter a sequence up to 21 buttons to program a macro function to a back button, and to clear a program's back button, repeat the steps, but after the controller vibrates, release both buttons, then press the turbo mode button to end the programming process. And as you can see, the back button I had set to be my jump macro function is now cleared. And if you want to disable the back buttons, just press and hold down the M button until the controller vibrates, and you will see a red LED light appear on the handles. And to re-enable the back buttons, just repeat the steps. Then in order to enable the turbo mode, aka an auto clicker, just press and hold down the turbo mode button, then press the button you want to be auto clicked. So now when you hold down that programmed button, it will just repeat the button action until you release the button. And if you repeat the steps, you don't even have to hold down the programmed button. It will just auto click by itself. And to turn it off, just repeat the steps once more. And this wasn't in the instruction manual, but if you press and hold down the turbo mode button, you can adjust the speed of the auto clicker by moving the right joystick up to increase the speed and move the right joystick down to decrease the speed. And there are 3 speeds to choose from, and each speed level will have their own flashing LED bar indicator. But I will admit, the first 2 speeds are nearly identical, but the third speed, being the lowest, is pretty obvious. On top of that, another feature they forgot forgot to include in the instruction manual is that you can adjust the vibration of the controller by pressing and holding down the turbo mode button, then move the left joystick up to increase the strength and move the left joystick down to decrease the strength. And there are 4 levels of vibration strength to choose from. Then in order to adjust the LED lighting of the handles, just press the LED light button on the back of the controller to filter through the RGB lighting. You can choose from a rainbow cycle or choose one of the 7 solid colors, those being red, orange, green, light blue, blue, or purple, and each one has their own breathing light effect. Then the reset button on the back of the controller can be pressed to clear all macro and turbo functions. And lastly, in order to turn off the controller, just press and hold down the home button until the LED lights turn off. Also, this controller will automatically turn off after 5 minutes of inactivity. Now you're probably wondering how much this controller costs. Well, the NYXI Flexi has a price tag of $59 USD, which is honestly a steal when considering every feature this controller has. And if you would like a little discount, you can always use my code BC5 during checkout on NYXIGame.com for 10% off your order. But in conclusion, I am giving the NYXI Flexi a solid 9.5 out of 10. The only things preventing me from giving this controller a perfect score is the short cable provided, the lack of a metal neck on the thumbsticks, the standard bumpers, as I wish they were mechanical like the ABXY buttons, or tactile like the D-pad. On top of that, there is no offsetting for the LED lighting, and an incomplete instruction manual, even though I have a feeling that will be resolved soon. Besides that, this is a very solid controller, and I highly recommend it for anyone who games on either the devices shown or mentioned throughout the video. And if you want to buy this controller, check out the links in my video description. But hopefully this video was helpful. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and if you do, make sure to turn on those post notifications. Besides that, hopefully I'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one, and shout out to NYXI for sending me out this controller to review.